Welcome, everyone, to day two of our Connections Conference. Today, we're super excited. We have Hillary Ken presenting on getting out there, learning different techniques to get the job. So a little bit about Hillary. She's a career and entrepreneurial consultant. She's a speaker, trainer, and career transition expert. She has a master's degree in industrial and organizational psychology. And she opened up HI Consulting, a company dedicated to helping others reach their greatest potential in life and work. She's a dedicated member of the community. She enjoys traveling and exploring the Southwest with her husband and her two dogs. So without further ado, let's hear from Hillary.
All right, thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. I'm really excited to be here this afternoon talking with all of you about getting out there and learning techniques to get the job. Essentially, we are talking about networking this afternoon. 85% of all jobs are filled through networking. So a lot of people are missing out on putting this valuable skill to use and really getting that job that is the best fit for them. So going into, Jose already did my introduction, so we can skip over this slide and go into the 4 focus areas that we're going to be talking about this afternoon. Most importantly, we're going to be talking about how to develop and use your network. That's the starting point for all of this. Then beyond that, we'll talk about how to connect with potential employers via online platforms and how to present well to those employers both virtually and face-to-face when we're meeting in person. There's also a key hidden gem that a lot of people don't utilize when it comes to their networks. And that's your hobbies, your interests, your passions, and how that can translate to transferable skills in the workforce. Next slide, please. So you've probably heard the old expression, it's not what you know, it's who you know. This suggests that no matter how smart and talented you are, you do not have the same competitive edge as someone who is well connected. And there's a lot of truth in this expression. So it's really all about who you know. So what is it and what do you need to know? Next slide, please. So we're going to break down the who, what, when, where, why. What is networking? Who makes up your network? Where do you meet these people? When does it take place? And then why is it so important? Next slide, please. So what is networking? Well, networking is the process of establishing a mutually beneficial relationship with other people. This can be career networking, which involves using your personal, professional, academic, or familial contacts to assist you with a job search, achieve career goals, learn more about your field or another field that you would like to work in. There's also business networking, which gives professionals the ability to collaborate with other experts to help them grow their business, improve their professional skills, or build relationships with clients and customers. So who makes up your network? Well, it's people, right? People make up your network. These are your coworkers, your family, your friends, professors, fellow students, other professionals in your field, your clients and customers. It can be personal acquaintances. It can be, people that you see at your church, your gym, or other local community centers. Essentially, all of the people that you interact with on a daily basis or once a year, any people that you are involved with, they make up your network. Next slide, please. So I chose this slide to talk about where networking takes place because it's not that typical image that comes to your mind, right? I think a lot of times when we talk about networking, we picture that room with the off-white walls and the high-top bar tables and people eating snacks off of little round plates. Well, that certainly is one version of networking, but networking takes place all over the place. So if you recognize this, this is the Phoenix Suns Arena. Go Suns, right? Networking can happen both in person and online. So first, let's just talk briefly about where networking happens when you're meeting person to person, face to face. So socializing in person is still your best chance of creating a successful network. You can attend company mixers, corporate retreats, or community events that will expose you to a variety of important contacts. Most likely, others at these events will also be networking or open to engaging with you. So it's a great place to share contact information, and if you have a business card, bring those with you so that you can exchange that information. You should be aware of companies' social calendars, high school, college reunions, and your local community social scene to find some of these events. So again, some of these opportunities to network in person include company mixers, corporate retreats, conferences, professional and trade associations usually host events, class reunions, your church community events. And then also one that we're going to touch about a little bit later in this presentation is by volunteering and giving back to your community, doing some community service. You can also network with people online. Social media is a really effective way to get to know important contacts without having that pressure of meeting face-to-face. You can seek out like-minded or key contacts that you would like to know better within maybe your LinkedIn profile, Google+, Facebook, Twitter. There's a whole plethora of online social networking sites that we'll go through today. You can do this by commenting on a post or sending a direct message, maybe responding to a comment that they sent you to get a conversation started. And then also, when you have the opportunity to meet this person face-to-face, you have these previous communications to reference back to, and it gives you a starting point for building that relationship in person. Still, one of the best ways to network online is by utilizing your LinkedIn profile and Facebook communities. Next slide, please. So you've probably heard the phrase, always be closing as it relates to sales, and the same to networking, right? You should always be networking. Networking is happening all the time. On that previous slide, we showed an example of being at a basketball game and how that is a networking opportunity. Always be open to the possibility that the best person for you to be speaking with in this moment could be standing next to you at the grocery store, at church, any of these places where you are meeting somebody. And same thing with online. You know, be open to having some of those connection requests and friend requests come in and seeing where those connections can take you. Next slide, please. So why is networking important? Well, we talked about this right off the bat, that networking allows you to access opportunities that you might not be able to find on your own. Your network has the potential to provide you with insight into different fields and information on what potential employers might be looking for, and then also advice on how you can improve professionally, make contacts, and better yourself. Just to share a quick personal story, yesterday I received an email from a connection of mine that they are looking to hire somebody at an executive level for an HR position. And prior to publicly posting this job advertisement, everybody in the organization sent emails to their connections to see who they might know that might be able to fill this role and be a good candidate, and to send their resume directly. So they are still going to post this position publicly, so it's not that you wouldn't have seen it otherwise, but you didn't get that initial edge, right? You didn't have that direct reference into the position. And that would be all happening from building your network. Next slide, please. So let's talk about networking in the workplace. One of the most obvious places to grow your network is in your workplace. So connections like these, like your coworkers, they can provide you with referrals, job leads, mentoring, and just some training, right? That all contributes to building your network. So if you dedicate some time and effort to getting to know your colleagues, they have the potential to help you advance in your current career and also aid in the transition to a new one. Supervisors can write you a letter of recommendation. Managers can give you inside information on job openings, maybe in another department, and then previous coworkers can refer you in with their new employer. Your workplace network can also help you improve as a professional and as an employee. Mentoring is crucial and a great way to establish your network and grow it. A mentor who is willing to give you advice and guidance can help you gain maturity and experience. A coworker who has a specific technical skill might also be willing to offer you some training and help you advance your own skill set. And these opportunities for self-improvement in the workplace can make you a more valuable employee and also a more attractive candidate for future job searches. So seeking out opportunities to expand your workplace network is as easy as starting a conversation in the break room, sending a direct message, just reaching out to your coworkers to find out more about their story, what's their role, and what are their career goals. Getting to know them gives you information both about how you can help them and how they can help you. Next slide, please. So networking for career development it's essentially a map of your career journey. So it begins with your education, kindergarten years, preschool years, and then it ends when you retire. So it's a really, really long roadmap. Career development includes the skills that you acquired from your informal or formal education, the experience that you gained at your very first job, and then the advancement opportunities that you also have in your current position. So networking is one of the most effective methods for accelerating the pace of your career development and providing you with the new opportunities that you need to succeed. So your employer may provide you with official opportunities for career development. This might look like training courses, seminars, certifications, things like that. However, most of the responsibility for developing professionally falls on you. So there's several ways that you can use your professional network for career development. For instance, you can job shadow a friend who works for a competitor. You can audit one of your former professor's courses. You can also meet with your current employer over coffee to discuss your career goals. Again, a lot of this effort does fall on you to at least take that initial step, and then the person in return can help you build what that roadmap is going to look like. Career development is crucial for those seeking to grow professionally, and using your network can be a valuable tool. So try to identify those in your network who might be able to provide you with new skills, experiences, and stay in touch with those contacts, maybe in a wide variety of fields, different levels of experience. All of these individuals can provide valuable additions to your professional network. And then you also want to stay connected and be involved. So you never know when an exciting opportunity is going to present itself. So it's important to continue to do this over time. Next slide, please. So let's talk about networking during a job search. This is the most common time to use your network. And since many positions are filled using personal contacts instead of advertisements, as I just mentioned with that specific example with the email that I received yesterday, if you're looking for a new career, your network is your most powerful tool. So your network can provide you with job leads, reference letters, advice, and also insight into new fields. So if you're looking to make a transition, utilizing your network is crucial. Before you start emailing your resume to strangers, so these would be the recruiters at companies that you don't know yet, start by sharing it with some of your most promising contacts. Be open to the people that you already know about your job search and let them know what you're interested in. Send them your credentials and get their feedback, and then also see what introductions they might be able to help make for you. One of the best methods for using your network during a job search is social media. If you share the fact that you are looking for work with your social circles, you can enhance your chances that someone on your group of friends, contact list, your social media circles is aware of an open position and within a field that you're interested in and can help make you that introduction. It's also really important if you're looking at transitioning from state to state or different locations if you're making a move during this job search. And although you might not be anticipating an upcoming career change, it's still a good idea to maintain your network consistently, Again, you never know when you might need to find a new position quickly, and close relationships with your contacts could be your best chance for a successful career change. If you regularly invest some time and effort into your professional network, you'll be able to draw on its resources when you really need them. Next slide, please. So we're going to talk a little bit here about building your personal brand. I understand that you will have access to this slide deck after the presentation, so we'll walk through some of this. And this would be a good time if any questions come up to let me know, and then we can address those as we work through this. So next slide, please. Let's talk about making first impressions. It's one of the most crucial pieces here to developing your personal brand and having networking be successful for you. So it's important to understand first what impression management is. Impression management exists in several forms and is evident in our everyday lives. This occurs when individuals seek to create a desired image or invoke a desired response from others. So in other words, it's a way of presenting yourself to others and monitoring how others view you. Impression management depends on three key items: your mindset, how you compare yourself to others, and how in tune you are to the environment. Now, cultural beliefs and attitudes do play a role in this, and so it does vary even from personal to work life. So we'll go through some examples of this here. So what is your mindset? There are two types of mindset: fixed and growth. Modest cultures tend to encourage a fixed mindset, while cultures of positivity tend to have a growth mindset. Those who take on a growth mindset will be better equipped to succeed professionally, whether it be as an employee, an executive, or a business owner. So let's discuss this with a concept. I'm going to use myself here as the example. I ride dirt bikes. I have ridden quads, ATVs, dirt bikes since I was a little kid, but I purchased my very own dirt bike, one that I had picked out. It was pretty fast. And decided to teach myself how to ride it. This was a couple years ago. The very first time on the bike, I brought it home, put it in the street, and started it up, and dropped, and I did a wheelie all the way down the street, and it scared me out of my mind. Now, if I had displayed a fixed mindset at that moment, I would have been thinking, I do not have the ability to ride this dirt bike, and that cannot be changed. And I would have never rode the dirt bike again. However, I utilized a growth mindset and thought, my abilities can grow with practice. I have now ridden this dirt bike up and down Montana Mountain, which is here in Arizona. I've ridden it all through Wyoming and up through Alaska. So that's kind of the example of going between a growth mindset and a fixed mindset. It's how you actively think about the situation and your abilities in that situation. I think it's vital to have somebody that supports your mindset when it starts to become fixed in these situations. One of my mother's favorite sayings is, you can do anything you put your mind to. So think about who some of those positive influences are in your life. It can help you move from a mindset of being fixed to a mindset of growth, and not being a mindset of being fixed and ability focused, but one of growth. Let's talk about how you compare yourself to others. So social comparison is the concept that your attitude about yourself is a result of comparing yourself with others. Lots of people will tell you not and encourage you not to compare yourself to others, and I do agree with that, but comparison can also be a way to learn. So most importantly, if you are going to compare yourself, pick good role models for social comparison. Believe it or not, one of the most common forms that people compare themselves is in tipping behaviors, like if you go to a restaurant and leave a tip for the waiter or waitress. However, as I just mentioned, it's really important to be mindful of who you are comparing yourself to. Time magazine has published an article that's been widely read on the etiquette of tipping behaviors. And in New Zealand, tipping is very rare. In Japan, the absence of leaving a tip is most courteous. But here in the United States, we vary and differ from those two cultures quite a bit. So in short, we're all looking for comparisons, and it's a behavior that's difficult to change. And in some cases, it's even necessary. You just want to make sure that you're comparing apples to apples and not fruit to shoes. And then the last piece of this is talking about how in tune you are to the environment, the social tuning. And in my opinion, it's one of the most valuable secrets to achieving professional success. Social tuning is a phenomenon that occurs when you adapt another person's attitudes and behaviors. Typically, in a professional environment, this will occur between leadership staff and their employees. Social tuning usually transpires because you feel a liking to another individual, or you want to be accepted by a particular person or group. And this may happen when you meet someone for the first time, or even with people that you know well. Sometimes you will adapt to the situation subconsciously and not even realize that it's happening, but you can do it on a conscious level too. So I'm going to use myself as an example again to sort of walk through what this looks like. I have always been one of those people with a very strict exercise routine. I went to the gym on my own, I went through the same routine, and then I left the gym on my own. It was a very individualistic activity. And while I was working for a veterinary clinic about 15 years ago, the owner wanted to encourage the staff to take care of their health and purchase gym memberships for all of the employees. It was awesome. It was really amazing. He encouraged those of us who already had an exercise routine to work out with the other employees, and encourage them to develop healthy lifestyles. This was not who I was, right? But because I wanted to be part of the group and I wanted to be liked and show that I could be a good employee and a team player, I started working out with my colleagues. And you know what? Working out in a group is not so bad. So social tuning allows people to learn about themselves and their environment while interacting with others. Adapting your own views to match those of the people surrounding you through social tuning in order to develop meaningful relationships can be very beneficial to developing your network. And these relationships play an integral role in also developing your self-esteem and self-concept. So now that we've walked through that, let's go to the next slide. And this is one where I was saying that, you'll have a copy of this because we're going to talk a little bit about crafting your elevator pitch. We just walked through, making those first impressions, and this is how you make that first impression, is by introducing yourself. So running through, this presentation, Jose was very kind to introduce me at the very beginning of it, but oftentimes you are charged with introducing yourself to the people that you are meeting. And it can be one of the scariest pieces about networking is just that initial communication. And when somebody says, so tell me about yourself, we sort of freeze, right? And it's like, I don't know, who am I? What do I like? So here's a little bit of a formula that you can use with some of those most important pieces about introducing yourself. So you want to start by summarizing your background. Maybe talk about where you're from, where you went to school, what has your employment history been like? And then you can also talk about your hobbies and interests. This is supposed to give an idea about who you are as a person, generally, what well-rounded. And then explain what it is that you're doing right now. So what does your current position look like? Who is your current employer? What does today hold for you? And this could also be where you say that you're looking for a position, right? It doesn't have to be that you're employed right now. You don't have to skip over this step. You just want to talk about where things were previously and then where you are right now. Then don't forget the most important piece, which is everybody's favorite radio station, WIIFM, which stands for What's in It for Me. The person that you are talking to wants to know what's in it for them by getting to know you. Just the same as when somebody's introducing themselves to you, you're thinking, okay, what's in it for me to know you? Why is it valuable for us to have this connection and relationship? So what does that person that you are speaking to gain from knowing you? What is it that you have to offer? And then you can also talk about what it is that you're looking for. So you can start to establish that mutual relationship between you. And then at the end, engage with a question. So continue the conversation by asking them to tell them about themselves. You can ask about their hobbies or their interests, and you can ask how you can help them. A lot of times when asking this engaging question, we tend to be a little bit generic with it, and it's best if you can ask a specific question. So just, a very generic example at networking events, one of the most common things to ask is, did you have a nice weekend? Well, the answer to that question is yes or no. But you can change that and say, did you do something fun this last weekend? What did you do? And get them to start developing that conversation and having that back and forth communication with you, where you actually get to learn something about that person rather than just having the small talk that is yes or no answers. The last part of this piece is to practice. Practice with friends, practice with families, practice with your dog, practice when you're in your car. Just make sure you practice it. The last thing that you want is to be in one of those ideal opportunities where the exact right person for you to be talking to is standing in front of you and you're stumbling over introducing yourself. So if you practice anything and memorize anything, it's your elevator pitch about who you are and why you are a person worth knowing. Next slide, please. So as we talked about earlier, there's a couple different ways that you can mix and mingle with people. These are both in-person meetings and networking online. We're going to talk through in-person meetings first, and then we're going to focus on online networking. So online networking, it does allow you to make connections quickly, and you have access to people all over the world. But with in-person networking, you can create meaningful and memorable relationships, and you don't know who you're going to meet, right? So networking is so vital to the business world that it really shouldn't be limited to one or the other. So we're going to talk about benefits of both. So in-person networking can help you meet new contacts, and it can also help you develop deeper relationships with people that you already know. We're going to talk about 6 benefits to networking in person. The first is being recognized. There's a reason that we like to put a name with a face. It helps us remember people. On Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Google+, people see a small thumbnail of your face, and then the rest of the page is filled with your information and latest activity. So how are they supposed to remember you from just your headshot? In contrast, in-person meetings put your face and your personality in front of people. Literally. Not only will they be looking at you, but they will also see your facial expressions, and they're more likely to remember you as a result of that. The second benefit of networking in person is that it gives you the opportunity to speak up. Meeting in person means that you can respond in real time and have people actually listening and hear you. There was a study conducted by EdTrankChecker, and they found that on Facebook, only about 6% of a page's fans will actually see a post on that page. And on Twitter, followers only see your tweets if they log in shortly after you. Now, if you compare that to having someone's attention during a face-to-face conversation, it gives you that opportunity to be heard. Third most important thing is you can be understood. So in-person meetings increase your chances of being understood. And while social networking online might be faster and cheaper than meeting people in person, online interactions only allow for 2 out of these 6 key attributes that we're talking about that help build relationships. You can't hear tone of voice online, but you can in person. You can watch facial expressions. You can watch both intentional and unintentional body language. And you can observe people's hand gestures, how they move. Until we get really, really good at doing all of these things digitally, online networking is not going to foster the same communications as well as in-person networking does. And even right now, I mean, you can see me, you can hear me, you can see my facial expressions, but you really only can see the top half of me, and I can't see any of you. So even though this is an excellent platform and we're able to do video and we're getting closer and closer to being able to meet virtually as we are in person, we're still not quite there yet. The fourth most important thing about meeting in person is being able to share your knowledge. By speaking up and being understood, you have the opportunity to share your knowledge. When you're talking with somebody in person, you don't have to be the most experienced person on the subject matter. I actually say if you're going to network in person, you do not want to be the smartest person in the room, right? You just need to simply be there, and people will want to talk to you. Online, you have to capture your audience before you can really share anything with them. So unless you happen to be some sought-after authority on a subject, this means promoting yourself through blogs, ebooks, podcasts, websites, your social media content. Much more of your time and energy is spent on promoting yourself rather than actually explaining yourself. And meeting somebody in person gives you that opportunity to share what it is that you can bring to the table. The fifth concept that happens with in-person meetings is chemistry. There is an intangible aspect of human relationships which social media platforms cannot capture, and it's chemistry. Some people just click. So if you're looking for a mentor or a mentee, if you're looking to mentor someone, an employee, an investor, chemistry is vital to all of this. And it's difficult to learn, teach, or get excited without it. And the only way to really, really find out whether or not you'll hit it off with someone is by meeting them in person. Receiving a friend request from someone just doesn't come with that same spark. So the last benefit of meeting with people in person is that you get to meet different people. Now, with networking online, you do have access to a large amount of people, right? We can access people all over the globe, but you are intentionally seeking out those people. When you're meeting people in person, you will actually meet a wider variety of people than you will online. So let's consider what happens on Netflix. I think that's the best example. Among the rows of movies and films that you've been rating and watching, maybe you've watched Pride and Prejudice recently, then Netflix is going to show you a bunch of chick flicks. If you've just watched a horror movie, then it's going to show you a plethora of thrillers, right? And LinkedIn actually does the same thing as Netflix. The site shows you people who work for a similar company, your industry, or are in similar positions. But when you're networking in person, you have no idea who's going to be in that room. You don't know who that person is that you're going to be talking to. And so that's where some of the best connections can come from, is that you don't know who you're going to be standing next to and who you're going to be talking to, but you have that opportunity to get to know that person and potentially foster a very meaningful relationship by being in the room. That's all you have to do is show up, right? Show up and be able to introduce yourself, and the rest will just happen organically. Let's go to the next slide, please. We just talked a lot about the benefits of meeting in person. We're going to briefly go through some of these virtual meeting benefits, and then we're going to talk more in depthly about how to show up and really drive virtual meetings successfully forward. So with virtual meetings, there are some benefits. You can join various discussion groups. You can break the ice before meeting somebody in person. And then you can also listen and be as engaged as you want, right? Which is a huge benefit of virtual meetings. So one of the top benefits of meeting virtually is that you can expand your network anywhere and there's no travel required. So don't have a car? Don't worry about it. You don't have to go anywhere. You can do this from your office, from your living room, from your kitchen. And no travel also means, savings in time and money. So it's really no surprise that a lot of events are moving in this direction. You can also establish yourself as an authority in your field. So when you're building your profile and networking online, it vastly expands the number of platforms where your voice can be heard. So like we mentioned before, you can be on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Google+, you can host Zoom, WebEx conferences. There's a whole bunch of different modalities that you can get your voice and your expertise out there. Whereas with in-person networking, you're at that one event, that one conference, and those are the people that you're going to be talking to. I just mentioned this too, but you can also be the host, right? A lot of these platforms are very inexpensive. I know with Zoom, you can have a free account and you can have one-on-one meetings, and then you can also have free meetings for a certain number of people up to 40 minutes. There's no venue, there's no resources, there's no essential cost, and you can actually host any of these meetings. All right, let's go to the next slide, please. So this is a concept that I like to talk about with building the spider's web. So as I mentioned a few slides ago, both in-person and virtual networking are important concepts to building your network overall. But it is more about quality than quantity. So expanding and growing your network is intentionally broadening and maintaining your network. And this really comes from, you know, the what do we get, right? The WIIFM, what's in it for me? So let's think about the tortoise and the hare here. The tortoises are the people who offer value and make slow, trustworthy connections before they receive a return on their investment. And then the hares are the ones that go all in like a straight arrow and ask for that business opportunity up front. If you want to succeed at networking, playing the slow game is usually the way to go. Just imagine somebody who comes up to you and they say something like, hey, I saw your content. Do you have a job for me? That's a little off-putting, right? But if you think about somebody who comes up to you and says, hey, I saw your content. It was really awesome. The part that stood out to me the most was blah, blah, blah. Can we talk about that a little bit? Then you're more likely to have a conversation with that person and engage with them. And then they become part of your network and you become part of theirs. And that's the beauty of how all of this works. We call building the spider's web. It's we're going to start to have all of these connections or have these little invisible lines between each other. And it's the person who knows the person who knows the person that's going to help you the most. And then putting this network to work, it's important to keep track of what these different contexts in your network can offer you. So you'll need to remember which one of your previous coworkers now works in finance and which one started teaching philosophy. And then equally important is to know what you have to offer all of those individuals. At the end of this, we're going to go through some tools that will help you manage that. But ideally, networking should be beneficial. So when you think about growing this and expanding it and all of those lines connecting to it, you want to be conscious of how those lines exist. What is it that everybody can offer to somebody else? One of the biggest advantages that I found to being able to maintain my network is that after I meet somebody and we go through our elevator pitches, I ask them to send me 2 or 3 sentences in an email how I can introduce them. And then I save that information so that the next time I'm in a conversation with a guy named Joe and I'm thinking, oh, I just met Susie a couple months ago, she'd be perfect for Joe and Susie to talk. I think that they could have some business opportunities together. I've already got Susie's information. I can quickly send that email and it's not a lot of work on me, but I'm able to help facilitate that introduction between 2 other people. So send people a little blurb about yourself on how they can help introduce you, and then also ask for people to send you the same so that you can make introductions very effortlessly. All right, next slide, please. And we're going to jump quickly to the next slide. So we're just going to walk through how to connect in a virtual world because it is different than meeting in person. Okay, so meeting in person, you want to pick out some business professional clothing. You want to, make sure your hair is clean, you're professionally groomed, and then the rest of it just sort of happens, right? You want to come prepared with maybe your ID, a little bit of money. That's really, it's no different than leaving for the grocery store or to go to the basketball game, right? Where we were talking about where networking happens. When we're networking in person, we're typically already preparing because we're so used to that. We're prepared, physically speaking, to meet with people. When we're meeting virtually, it is a little bit more effort right now. So let's first talk about how to network online and make it successful. Networking online has been happening for probably about over a decade now. And then especially with social media, it's been happening even longer than that, but really, really going full force more recently. This has also been a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. So businesses sent employees home, events went virtual, here we are. And just as we discussed, networking virtually takes a lot more effort for you up front. So I want to make sure this is successful for you. So one of the key things that you can do is participate on LinkedIn. In March of 2020, there were 675 million members on LinkedIn across 200 countries and regions. Fast forward to January 2021, we're up to 750 million, with more than 30 million companies on LinkedIn and 20 million open jobs on the network. So this is just LinkedIn, right? Some of the things that you can do on LinkedIn is optimizing your profile for search. So you want to, in your profile sections, make sure that you have skills listed with keywords that recruiters are searching for. And then when they're looking for a candidate like you, you're more likely to come up. Also be sure to enter in all of your work experience with details in those experiences. LinkedIn is a networking platform. So the way that it works best is for you to participate. You can build out an awesome profile, but if you're not clicking through things, commenting on things, liking things, it's not going to drive you the same results as it would if you were participating. So just take a few minutes to scroll through your feed and interact with some content. You can leave comments. You can just click like. Doing so, one, connects you with the person who posted that, and they will notice your comment. And then it also enables you to form new connections by other people seeing that you commented on it. LinkedIn is not something that you have to be doing all day, every day. You can log in once or twice a week and be considered an active member of LinkedIn. You can also participate in LinkedIn groups. These groups exist that might be related to your industry. You can share questions, advice, and network with other industry professionals. And if it is an industry-focused group on LinkedIn, recruiters do actually join those groups, and they will log in to check and see who's part of the group and actually source candidates from there. You also want to stay visible on your social media, and so this means logging in, right, and being active on the platform. A little dot will appear next to your name so that people know that you are online, and then that way they know that they can open up and connect with you. You can also set up video chat. We just talked about Zoom, grabbing virtual cups of coffee. We'll walk through a specific case study there where that worked out really well for somebody that I was working with. And networking online is the new networking mixer. So it's still effective to network online, and it's just key to dedicate some of your time to building some of those meaningful relationships that you genuinely care about and will help move things forward for you. So next slide, please. So there's a checklist that we've put together for making sure that your video meetings go off without a hitch. You want to test the software beforehand, make sure that it's updated. You also want to light up your space. You can purchase ring lights for about $20 online, and clean up any clutter behind you. You want a nice clean background behind you. And then also making sure that your microphone works. You might want to use your computer microphone, you can use your phone, and then you can also use a headset. Just make sure that it's got a good, clear sound. There's nothing worse than having a bunch of static or cutting in and out. And then you also want to treat it like an in-person meeting. No joke, some of my clients have been asked, are you wearing pants, right? We're seeing all these jokes about how we can work in yoga pants and fuzzy socks, and all of that's fine and great, but when you're meeting with somebody virtually, you do want to treat it the same as you would an in-person meeting. All right, next slide, please. So talking about this specific case study, I had a client, Joe, who was a VP in Silicon Valley, and he wanted to relocate from San Francisco to Phoenix. So we put together a job search strategy for him that involved, it took place over 4 months, and we did it all through networking on LinkedIn. We hosted virtual coffee meetings with people that would be key within his industry to connect with, and he did 2 of them per week and expanded his network by 20%. From the start to finish over those 4 months, at the end of that 4-month period, he called me and he said, guess what? I'm coming to Phoenix. I've got 5 job interviews lined up for today. He picked the best fit for him out of those 5 offers that were made, and he now lives in Scottsdale, Arizona. So it's a really brief case study just to show you that networking on LinkedIn does work. You've just got to put in the time and effort to do it. Next slide, please. All right, so let's talk about how your hobbies and interests can expand and bring opportunities forward for you. Next slide. So your personal network, these are venues that you may frequent. For example, they can be health clubs, golf courses, airplanes, weddings, book clubs, parties, and sporting events. These are all people that are part of your personal network, and striking up a conversation with the person next to you can bring forward a lot of opportunities for you. We're going to walk through that with another case study. So next slide, please. So I worked with somebody named Phil, and he flew remote control airplanes every Sunday with a group of 6 other people. They got together, and they had been doing this for over a year. And Phil came to me because he had been laid off from his position where he had been for 20 years working in operations. And we were trying to figure out ways that he could break back into the industry. He was a little bit older for the workforce to be re-entering, and so making a huge transition was a little bit intimidating to him. So he wanted to find something similar to what he was already doing. So we started examining, where is he already spending his time? And I asked him what he does for fun on the weekends, and he says that he flies remote control airplanes. And so I said, well, what do they do? What do they do professionally? And he said, you know what? I don't know what they do. So I challenged him with introducing himself to the people that he spends every Sunday morning with, and he did. Turns out that one of the 6 people that he flies remote control airplanes with was the owner of a recreational vehicle mechanics department or a chain, a franchise. And he ended up hiring Phil as their chief operating officer. So this job opportunity came from people that he had spent every Sunday morning with, doing something that he found as a passion and was, a side hobby that really didn't have a lot to do with what he was doing professionally. So those opportunities exist everywhere. Next slide, please. All right, so I always throw in a friend's side in every one of my presentations. Hopefully you guys enjoy this, but this is Rachel Green, and this is when she gets her job as an assistant buyer. For those of you that aren't familiar with the television show, Rachel is a little bit of a spoiled girl that comes from upstate New York, and her favorite thing to do is to go shopping. She originally comes to New York City and works as a waitress, and then leaves that position and sends out her resume for different job opportunities and is hired as an assistant buyer. So she is now shopping for a living. So that's possible for any one of us, and I'm going to show you that with the next case study. So next slide, please. So I worked with a woman named Melissa, and she volunteered at St. Vincent de Paul, and that was what she did full time. She was going to school, so she was doing that, and then was volunteering at St. Vincent de Paul. She did not actually, she didn't have a paid position at the time when she came to work with me. But as she was finishing her master's degree, she wanted to go into the workforce and find a paid position. The issue was that she loved the work that she did at St. Vincent de Paul. She wanted that job, but just to be paid for it. And so through networking at St. Vincent de Paul and expressing to them that she loved what she was doing there, but needed to find a paid opportunity, the people there actually helped her find a position, and she is now an operations manager for a large franchise, teaching people how to open up their own franchise businesses, which is really similar to the work that she was doing at St. Vincent de Paul. So this was going from a non-paid experience into a paid experience. Next slide, please. All right, so let's bring it all together and talk about networking for the greater good. Next slide. So cultivating your network is a year-round and crucial activity to maintaining beneficial connections. If you suddenly message a friend that you haven't spoken to since high school, they're not likely to respond back quickly and offer to help you, right? So maintaining pleasant relationships with your extended network is something that you should be thinking about all the time. And it'll start small and then it will blossom into this hugely beneficial tool that you have at your disposal to continue to move your career forward. Let's go to the next slide here. So I want to talk to you about opening up yourself to fear and vulnerability and how this unlocks the door for new opportunities, because this can be one of the most challenging pieces, right? We go through this session and we talk about networking and how this is how you can network with people in person and introduce yourself. And then here's how you have the best training for your virtual meetings and we feel all empowered and confident. And then tomorrow happens and it's like, well, I don't know if I really want to do any of those things, right? I have to start somewhere. So I worked with a mentor a few years ago, and one of the most valuable things that I got from that experience was learning how to continuously maintain my network and do it for the benefit of other people, and how in return that was going to benefit me. So I start my day by introducing 3 people. So I go through my network. I have thousands of connections on LinkedIn. I'm going to go through some tools here on the next slide in just a second here. I go through my CRM, right, which is how I manage my contacts. A Rolodex with a bunch of business cards in it. And I just pick 3 people and I say, okay, I'm going to introduce this person to somebody else. I'm going to reach out to this person. I'm going to find an article that can help them. And what I'm doing there is opening myself up to the fears that I have about not being received and making myself vulnerable. And this has unlocked the doors for so many opportunities. It's how I'm standing here today, actually, was somebody made an introduction to Jose for me, and now I'm here talking to all of you guys. So maintaining your network is crucial, and it can be done by just taking 10 or 15 minutes out of your day and having some sort of system and accountability piece in place for you. Okay, so next slide says resources. We can just skip right over that into the tools. So here are 4 networking tools that I suggest that you use. The first one is Calendly. This is a free tool that you can use to set up a calendar and give people access to your schedule. So it eliminates the back and forth of trying to set up something like a coffee meeting or a phone call. Also HubSpot, which at the basic level is a free CRM where you can track all of your emails, you can keep track of phone numbers, where people work, the websites that are linked to that person. It's a great way to be able to maintain your contacts outside of LinkedIn. Zoom is also another great platform that you can use because it is, again, a free tool that you can use to have one-on-one meetings. And you can have virtual backgrounds, and it really is a pretty robust virtual networking tool to be able to use. And then the last is CardCam, which is a business card scanner. So if you are meeting somebody in person, you can just simply take a picture of their business card and it will upload it into your contacts on your phone. And it also syncs with HubSpot, so it will put all of their information into HubSpot as well.
All right, so let's open this up for any questions.
Hi there, Hillary. My name is Kim Hemmersbach, and I'm the Transition Age Youth Manager here at Mercy Care. And I just had a couple of questions for you. So, with some of our members that were, helping obtain employment, some may, not have the wherewithal to be able to network, with some of their behavioral difficulties. Some of them, maybe with their experiencing symptomology from a serious mental illness. Some may not have the, consistent capability with technology, platforms, things of that nature. So I was just, curious how you might sort of modify some of your recommendations to, help fit that population or help fit, as we're just getting started out, as we, turn into adulthood, 18, 19, 20 years old, when, much younger. age, how might you maybe modify some of your suggestions to fit these populations?
Yes, that's an excellent question. And, that's one of the things that I think is beautiful about being able to network online is that you can be a little bit more passive in your engagement. So certainly networking in person, the value that you're going to get out of that is by engaging in other conversations. But with online networking, you can be a passive participant and you can save any follow-up for a different day. You can get some support from others. And similar to, when you're younger and you have like a bathroom buddy, having a networking buddy can be really beneficial too. And so having somebody either attend with you or for you, and then helping facilitate some of that afterwards. With the HubSpot CRM that I recommended, you can set things like reminders. So there'll be pop-up reminders that say, you need to send somebody an email or log in for, one to maybe 2 hours this week on networking. So those would be some of the ways that you could modify it.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Hillary, I see another question that popped up in the Q&A. The question is, what suggestions do you have to get me into the active mindset to network? I'm such an introvert.
Yes, me too. I'm also an introvert, which a lot of people are surprised to learn. But a lot of it is, giving yourself the time. And so at the end of the presentation, I was talking about setting yourself up for fear and vulnerability. And so getting yourself into that mindset, it does take practice, right? And so it can be just doing some baby steps. I'm not even kidding that when I first started networking, I drove to some networking events and didn't even get out of my car once I was in the parking lot, right? That was the first step, was just deciding to go, right? It starts with, okay, I bought the ticket. Okay, now I need to get there. And so creating that visual roadmap of, okay, what is tonight going to look like? I'm going to drive to the event. I'm going to take this route. And I'm going to get out of my car. Then I'm going to go in. And the goal is to talk to one person. That is your goal for going to the networking event. It doesn't mean that you need to meet everybody in the room. Just, be aware of your energy level. And then as soon as you've accomplished those goals that you've set forward, give yourself the freedom to leave. If the networking event is 4 hours, it doesn't mean that you have to commit to all 4 hours. You can go for 15 minutes if that's what your energy level allows for that day. And then go home, regroup, and set the time for the next one. What's your goal for going to attend the next networking event? And same thing with online. We can feel a little bit more comfortable because we're behind a screen when we're networking online. You don't even have to share video a lot of times when you're networking online, so it can be a very safe space for us. But then you set the goal of, okay, I'm going to send one message, or I'm going to ask one person to follow up with me and speak with them later in the week. And that's your goal for sharing video and building some of those relationships.
Thank you for sharing that. How are we doing? Any other questions in the Q&A? I think, yep, I see one. Give me 1 second just to pull it up. Go ahead, Jeanette, you want to let us know?
Sure. Is there some program available to help me through that process?
I'm sorry, for the process of that we were just talking about from the previous question?
I think so, but maybe
yes,
we can unmute Christopher. Yeah.
Yes, I believe there was a follow-up to his initial question about being an introvert and working through that process.
So I don't know of any official tool. That's something that I could certainly research. For my own process, I journal it. I write it out, pen and paper. I'm still a little bit old school when it comes to some of that. That's what I feel most comfortable with. But really, this is about your own individual experience. So it would be whatever is most comfortable for you. But I'm not sure of a specific technology tool that helps you do that.
Thank you. To sort of wrap up our session. And again, Hillary, thank you so much. This is great, useful information, and we really appreciate it.